Today, we're looking at a black ink from Waterman Intense Black. Just a spoiler, it's not. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, if you like fountain pen ink reviews, I would invite you to subscribe. Also, if you're interested, you can follow me over on Instagram. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Nimicine Singularity with a fine nib. I write with it for a day and then use it to take the notes for this video. I use 3 papers to standardize in some of my writing samples: Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. There are additional writing samples that'll come later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this. And to keep my writing sample consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, or interest. The extra fine is darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 9 seconds to dry. Medium is a little bit darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 13 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show no color variation, and there isn't. It's probably the best results we're going to get. Tomoe River, no bleeding, normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is a bit darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. 13 seconds to dry. The medium is a little darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 19 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show no color variation, and there is none. And Rhodia. No bleeding or ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade, 10 seconds to dry. The medium is darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 14 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show no color variation, and there isn't any. I agree with Vita that we can learn a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done, and it puts me in shock because I redid these to make sure that I was looking at the correct chromatography. And I got a darker blue that goes up to a kind of peach orange. I was very surprised by it. Now the blue does have quite a bit of hold in there and is really in it, but I don't know that I really expect a whole lot of permanence until I look at the second chromatography, where that blue is really there. It's not budging a whole lot. The peach is pushing its way up. I'm just in complete shock that this is actually the mix that was used to make this black, which is why it might not be such a great black. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page and how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before I test it. Looking at the highlighter, it handles itself incredibly well. I would feel confident using it in a note-taking situation, and it looks darker for having been highlighted. So there's a positive. And here's the confirmation looking at water that that chromatography is correct, as I did it twice because I doubted myself. I thought I mixed them up. But when we put water down, we see that it moves all of the orange away and it's leaving that blue that we saw in the chromatography strip. But water's not entirely getting rid of it. Pen flush is breaking this up. That's only 30 seconds of it sitting there. We do see it starting to break up the ink on the page. I do think that giving a little bit more and actually moving it will help get rid of all that ink from your pen. So pen flush is all that you need. 1/3 bleach solution completely obliterates it off the page, but you don't need 1/3 bleach to get this out of your pen. As far as viscosity or flow, for the inks I've tested, I've found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Waterman's Intense Black has a viscosity of 1.89, making this a wetter ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples, and for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Waterman's Intense Black has an average dry time of 13 seconds, putting it right on the edge of normal. Instead of finding inks that look like Waterman's Intense Black, because why would you? I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I went with a very nice turquoise, Noodler's Navajo Turquoise. The second writing sample is done on yellow Rhodia, black and red, and Franklin Christoph paper. Here we're looking at yellow Rhodia paper. And I was very interested to look at this because of how oddly this black is mixed. Now what's interesting is the medium nib is a much darker black. It's a very nice black here. It's not bad here. This is nice. The extra fine starts leaning a bit gray, and the stub was so gray it's still gray, but it didn't actually alter its color. I'm surprised by that. But it still does look black on yellow paper. Black and red notebooks. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. Now the extra fine is a little darker than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 2 seconds to dry. The medium is significantly darker than the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, 6 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine and the medium show no color variation, and I didn't get any. Last up is Franklin Christoph. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is darker than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade, 2 seconds to dry. Medium is quite a bit darker than the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade, 7 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show no color variation, and we didn't get any, and that is all that I have for the writing samples. So what do I think of Waterman's Intense Black? It's not a very dark black ink, and with that, I don't want to beat it up. I just want to simply say this is absolutely not the black ink for me. So what nib and pen is going to give your best writing experience with this ink? The only thing I can come across is a very, very, very wet, fine or extra fine pen to really put the ink down, but even then, it's not super black. If you've enjoyed this video and made it this far, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, and if you didn't like it, give me a thumbs down and tell me why. Thanks for watching.